folks, welcome back to another Palm Massive video, and it's been, I think, a month or so, right? Actually, 2 months. 2 months since we did the last one, and we got, decent amount of new limited units in the game, so I thought we'd do one of these again, just going over the units, right? And, maybe some suggestions in terms of how many copies you probably want to go for each, right? And, yeah, I got glasses. I don't know. I was legally blind for, like, months now after, like, my eyes stopped working with the contacts that I had. So, yeah, it was not a fun stretch. I know they look terrible, but it is what it is. At least I could see. All right. Okay. Anyways, let's do this. Let's see. Yeah. So let's probably start with them from the hybrid. So now that we actually do have 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5, that's probably another consideration now. All right. So. Yeah, there's also that. Anyways, should we actually before we get into the new units, let's just go over like some of the older ones, I guess, right? The ones that now have like 4 out of 5 / 5 out of 5 stuff instead, right? Because those are those exist too. So, all right. So first of all, Raihan Duraludon, right? I mean, it really depends on what your like goal is with this unit. If your goal is just as a DPS, and 1 out of 5 is fine still, right? But if you also want him to like be a really potent like striker nuker, then you kind of want to go for a 5 out of 5. So I'll just put him in the 1 out of 5 is fine, but much better at 5 out of 5, right? He does also get some DPS at 5 out of 5, but again, 5 out of 5 is mostly the nuke, the striker nuke that he has, which is very powerful now, right? So, all right, that's Duraludon. Next for N and Zekrom, like the boost that N and Zekrom got mostly is for his setup, which is good in a sense, but also if you do have Thunderbolt Red, it's also not very. You don't really need it, right? Again, if you're running him with like Volkner, then yeah, this stuff would be very much like a big help. But otherwise, again, if you're just Thunderbolt Red, you're fine, doesn't matter, right? So he could still stay at 1 out of 5 is still fine. Again, 5 out of 5 stuff is good, but also gets what, an extra 30% multiplier, which is nice. But yeah, it's not a make it or break it. As long again, kind of depends on if you do have like someone like Thunderbolt Red to set your extra train instead of something like, I don't know, classic Lisa or Vulcan or whatever. Next, in terms of a Lysandre, right? Lysandre, you got a lot of really nice stuff. Crit Strike 3, Brain Power, right? That's just a lot of really nice multipliers. Downside up, and this stuff could also help for the if you want to tank Lysandre, also works, right? But not that great, but it helps, right? But yeah, I'd say it's still just fine at 1 out of 5, but yeah, it would get a lot better at 5 out of 5 because that's a lot of multipliers, man. It's an extra 6% multipliers on both of those. I almost want to go for straight up just wants 5 out of 5, but nah, 1 out of 5 he's still alright along. You have like Flying Zone and stuff, right? Alright, let's get into some of the newer units. So starting off with Wally and Mega Shiny Gardevoir. I feel like this might, I don't know if this is a bit of a hot take or not, but I don't think his 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5 is that big of a deal. Like, it's good, like it's not like bad, right? Because you get brain gain here, which is actually a special move up next when you use Fairy Wish. And then a lot of people talk about the Fairy Zone extension. I don't think this one is. No, I don't think this one's worth it at all. Like, is it nice to have the extra extension? Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice quality of life thing. But on the other hand, right, if you already have him at 3 out of 5, you already have the MP refresh, which that's an MP. That's an entire extra one rather than whatever the the bit of extension you get here. So yeah, no, it's nice. All these things are nice. If you could get them, I mean, good for you, but I don't think it's a must. However, I do feel like 3 out of 5 is definitely pretty big, right? Again, there's the MP refresh over here. You have your Sync Nuke multipliers and stuff, right? Interference Sync here, all that stuff. Mind Boggler is really good too. Overpower if you want to do some DPS, I suppose. So yeah, definitely don't need 5 out of 5. Is it nice to have 5 out of 5? Yeah, but not necessary. Not necessary at all. All right. But I would say at least go for 3 out of 5. At least go for 3 out of 5 for at least, you know, a sync nuke there, right? Alright, next, so Fall Iris and Naganadel, right? So her MP refresh on Poison Wish is at 3 out of 5, and it's definitely very, very good to have. But on top of that, you also have like Brain Teaser over here, Smarty Pants over here. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's like a must, because like, I guess you could get like the most basic amount of Poison Wish set up at 1 out of 5, but considering she is also one of the better poison damage healers, even though she's not that great, but I mean, look, it's poison, bro. Like, she's pretty freaking good, or you know, for poison. Seeing that she's probably one of the better ones, yeah, it's probably a good idea to at least get her, you know, 3 out of 5, so she could also do some damage as well. On top of, again, just the MP refresh over here as well. So yeah, that's the Iris. Next we got the new Singsuit Hilbert and Genesect, another one of those, you know, 5 out of 5 poke fairs and such, right? So yeah, you do have the very, very, very basics of him, right, at 1 out of 5, obviously, but on the other hand, it's not that great. I mean, most of his multipliers are at least at 3 out of 5, right? They're at least at 3 out of 5, whether it's Brain Power, Brain Teaser over here, right, and stuff. And on top of that, he does have some really, really, really good 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5 stuff. He got, well, Team Sharp Entry is at 4 out of 5, which is really nice. And then obviously Hilbert's Aim at 5 out of 5, that's like the big one, right? So you get -2 rebuff instead of just -1, which -1 is still not bad, but -1 is not zone terrain weather level, right? -2 is zone terrain weather level. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's a must, but the difference between like 1 out of 5 and like the 5 out of 5 is it's there. It is there, man. If your team is good enough, right? If the rest of your team is good enough, I'd say, okay, sure, 1 out of 5 is probably fine. But if the team isn't good enough, right, and you kind of need Hilbert to carry, or you know, just help your other relatively not as good damage healers be at least decent, then 5 out of 5 is, I'm not gonna say a must, but it's pretty darn big deal, right? Next we have the upcoming Singsu N and Black Kyurem from, you know, part 2 of the Unova arc, right? And this guy you kind of want, yeah, you kind of want at least 4 out of 5, because 4 out of 5 you get Peak Readiness, which gives you an extra physical move up next. If you don't have, look, even if you do, to be fair, even if you do have this 4 out of 5, with this extra, you know, physical move up next, his damage is still pretty trash. But if you don't even have that, then his damage is just really atrocious. It is really, really, really atrocious, right? So I feel like you kind of have to at least have 4 out of 5 to make it not, you know, just like completely terrible. But again, still with the, as for the other stuff, like this stuff, it's like soften up is nice to have, but definitely not that big of a deal. And this is like for like, again, I have no clue why they gave him so much like random like tanking stuff. It is so weird. It is incredibly weird. It's probably, now I think about it, it's probably for, you know, oh, look how Black Kyurem, you know, we're gonna give you some tanking stuff so you could use Black Kyurem to solo a legendary arena, which is completely pointless in my opinion. Other than, you know, if you think it's cool or whatever, right? But it doesn't have any actual you know, significance, right? So yeah, I feel like this is one unit you kind of have to at least have 4 out of 5, right? Or else his damage is just like disgustingly bad, right? Disgustingly bad. All right, well, that's Black Kyurem. Let's go next with the EVs. So this one's Kris Jolteon. I mean, all 3 of them are gonna be basically, you know, the same, right, in terms of their grids and stuff. So we could just really just talk about one, and we could throw them all up in there, right? So yeah, I mean, for these units, most of their stuff is already in the basic kit, right? You know, the post-sync, terrain, weather stuff, right? It's all the same for all 3 of them. So yeah, you get most of their stuff at their basic 1 out of 5 kit. As for the other stuff, you do have, you know, some extra power-ups, right, for their DPS. You have extra sync stuff, right, at 3 out of 5. Some debuffs as well, which are nice, which are definitely nice. But yeah, it's more so, you know, at 2 out of 5 you have the DPS stuff, and 3 out of 5 you have the sync stuff. Again, should be the same for all these guys, right? Charging Suns here, Burn Synergy, and then you got Solar Flare, right? Brain Power, Scorching Sync, and then should be the same or something. So that's the wrong Vaporeon, but should be something similar for Vaporeon. So Vaporeon's the one that's like slightly different, but I mean it's still right. You get the same idea. Right? It's just you know, the other two are status, and hers is like stat debuff based. So yeah, I'd say at least 2 out of 5. At least 2 out of 5, right? But the 3 out of 5 does give you that sync nuke that you also get, even though they don't have EXs. So that's the thing. All right. So all right. So that's the 3 evolutions. Moving on to some pure damage healers over here. So starting with Mr. Victor. So Victor, his like big thing is just his like AoE max move, right? Which you obviously you get at base, right? So yeah, it's just that if you do want to like make it a bit more powerful, you do have that extra power up at 3 out of 5, right? Or Max Quake over here. As for like the rest of his grid, you have like some stuff. Hunter's Instinct here, I guess. Cakewalk, right? You have some multipliers. I don't think it's that big of a deal though. I definitely don't think it's that big of a deal to have, but 3 out of 5 does give you a decent damage buff. As for the 5 out of 5 stuff, 5 out of 5 stuff is mostly, right? It's mostly for this high horsepower BOGO 9, and I guess maybe max damage guard. Well, not so much, right? But BOGO 9 does make it so that he's much better as a ground type damage dealer, right? Especially if you're slotting him into a dual ground type damage dealer team comp, right? So then that high horsepower BOGO 9 would come in handy. But otherwise, if you're just using him for his grass type damage, 1 out of 5, 3 out of 5, right? 1 out of 5 you get the basics, but 3 out of 5 you get a few more multipliers and stuff, right? So yeah, as usual, probably place him over here and stuff. All right, moving on. We have the next Victini. So Victini is, I don't know, it's Victini, man. I mean, she'd be really nice at 1 out of 5, but you do get some, if I could freaking find Victini, she'd be at the beginning of Unova, right? One of those weird mythicals that are at like the beginning of the Pokedex instead of like at the end. But yeah, I mean, 1 out of 5 Victini is good enough for damage wise. But again, at 3 out of 5 you get some really nice stuff like the Confusion Aggravation into Confusion Synergy 2. Obviously these two go together. Rising Tide is your big sync nuke, right? So that's a really big one. Scorching Sync exists, but it's just hard to really get over there. 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5 are not that big. Like the best thing in the 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5 node is like Sundering Burn 9, which is good, but on the other hand, if you could just run like May, Singsu May with her instead, you know, that's just straight up better, right? So yeah, Victini, yeah, 1 out of 5 is fine, but 3 out of 5 is you get a lot of really nice multipliers again, especially for the sync nuke as well. All right, okay. As for supports, damn, did we only get 1 limited supports in like 2 months? Okay, well, there's that then. Okay, support slash utility, whatever you want to call it. So Mr. Allister and Gourgeist over here, right? Gourgeist should be around here. Yep, there it is. And what is this, man? Anyways, Gourgeist is definitely a unit that you want copies of, right? Because if you don't have at least 3 out of 5, you don't buff special attack at all, right? So yeah, I mean, sure, there's probably teams where you could slot them in where your damage dealer already maxes out their special attack, but also you get like stuff like Team Smart Command over here, right? This is definitely a unit you want 3 out of 5. A 1 out of 5 Gourgeist versus a 3 out of 5 Gourgeist are two completely different units, right? You definitely want this guy at 3 out of 5. Just 2 out of 5 really? No, 2 out of 5 is trash. I mean, there's some good stuff, there's Catalyst and stuff, but yeah, you definitely want 3 out of 5 for this guy. 100% you want 3 out of 5. So yeah. Anyways, that's for this one. I guess hope you all enjoyed. Again, just some suggestions, right? If you're wondering, you don't have to follow, obviously, all that stuff. So have fun, folks. Good luck, guys. Still pulling for units, all that stuff, and yeah, that's for this one. Hope you all enjoyed. Guys, link in the comments down below. Like and enjoy the videos for our channel for some more Pokemon content. Leave a super thanks, whatever that thing is called, if you want. Help support the channel as well, and I'll see you guys in the next one.